Hello everyone, I'm Tim from Tim's PC and I build custom PCs to suit anyone's needs or budget. I also live stream all my builds and repairs for transparency and educational purposes. So if you would like to get an awesome new PC and you'd like to see it get put together live, send me a message today. Alright, so tonight we're going to be building Mark's PC. So this is going to be a really nice build, if I do say so myself. So this build in particular is going to be featuring a Ryzen 7 5800X. This is one of the Ryzen 5000 CPUs that represent the best gaming performance that you can get at the moment. Also packing some decent multi-threaded performance with its 8 cores and 16 threads. We've also got an MSI Gaming X RTX 3060 as our graphics card for this build. So this is quite a decent 3060 card, I do believe. They're all brand new, so I'm not gonna tell you that I'm an expert on every single 3060 card. But from what I've seen here with this one, it's the Gaming X model, so it's an overclocked version. So it's overclocked from factory. It'll have a decent cooling solution on it. MSI graphics cards are generally pretty decent overall. So we'll put this graphics card down here to the side because it's the last thing that we're going to install. And so for this build, we're going to be keeping our Ryzen 5800X cool with this Darkrock Pro 4 cooler. So this is a Be Quiet one. This is basically what they see at the top here. It says 250 watt TDP. So that's kind of the amount of CPU cooling it's got behind it. So you could put a high-end CPU under this and it will keep it perfectly cool. This will perform as well as like roughly a 360mm radiator liquid cooler. So have a look at this, because like this is, you'll get to see the benchmarks and stuff later and you can compare it to what you've seen with other liquid coolers. But I can assure you that you can get air coolers that are as good as liquid coolers. And this is probably not the very best you can get, but it's up there in that top tier of performing products. And so what we're plugging into our motherboard, we've got 32 gigabytes of Aorus 3200 MHz CL16 memory. We've got a Crucial P2 500 gigabyte and a Crucial P1 1 terabyte. So what's the difference between P1 and P2? The P2 is a little bit faster than the P1. So we're going to be using our P2 as our boot drive, and then we're going to use our P1 as extra storage. And so we'll be plugging everything into an Aorus B450 Elite. So this motherboard here, I've used it a couple of times. It will need a BIOS update to work properly with Ryzen 5800X. So it works, but it doesn't work at the CPU's full performance until we do the BIOS update. So it's an important little point to note with that board. But we'll have a look at that board when we unbox it. So we've got a heap of RGB that we're going to be plugging into this case. So this case here is the Corsair 4000X. So it comes pre-installed with 3 120mm RGB fans there on the front. We're going to install an additional one on the back here. And then we've got some RGB strips that we're going to install, probably around the perimeter of the window there. And we've got 2 big 140mm RGB fans that are going to sit on the top there like that. So plenty of RGB lighting, even though we don't have a liquid cooler. Michael says, hey everyone. Hi Michael, how you going? Good to have you with us. This is going to be a good build tonight. I'm looking forward to it. And of course up here we've got some extra storage as well in the form of a 2 terabyte hard drive there. So no shortage of storage in this build. And we're powering it all with an 80 plus gold 850 watt power supply. This is the Gigabyte P850GM power supply. It's a fully modular power supply, so we can plug in just the cables that we need for this build, and we can put the others to the side if we need them at a later date. So that's all the components here, so let's get into the build. So we'll have a look at this motherboard. Alright, so we'll need SATA cables, my favourite little connector there at the front. Got an Aorus badge, if Mark wants it.
Mine says, hey, so's my internet a bit off, have you screens?
No, that's all good, mate. I've seen the, like, once in 100-year flooding that's occurring down there. It's pretty epic. You seen all that, babe? North Coast has had, like, or mid-North Coast, I should say, has had, like, unprecedented flooding.
Oh, shit.
Like, worse than 2011 and stuff. So... Yep, and it's still raining. Yeah, I think Port Macquarie got absolutely drenched. Okay.
Martin wants to know, how do you go about choosing a motherboard big enough to know the clock? It's all pretty confusing.
Well, I guess the first question is it Intel or AMD? So if we're talking Intel, then you really need to go with the Z series chipset boards. You can't really overclock on the other ones. You can slightly, but not completely. So you can force it to hold its turbo for longer and things like that, but you can't actually ramp up the clock speed. Mark's had over 300 millimeters in the past 4 days. That is a considerable amount of water. How many acres are you on, Mark? Because I always like to do the math of like how, like, so you got 30 centimeters of rain, right? And then you got how many acres, so like how much water would you have captured if all of it went into a dam, for example. Anyway, we'll start getting onto this motherboard. We've got a fan header up here, and we've got our CPU power connector here. So we've got an 8-pin connector on this board. We've got heat sinks over our coprocessors and VRM, which is good. Like to see that. We've got 2 fan headers here, which will come in handy for our cooler, which has 2 fans. So it's got a CPU and a CPU optional, and that's exactly what this configuration of fan headers is meant to support. Up here we've got a couple of RGB headers. So we've got a 5-volt RGB and a 12-volt RGB here. We've got 4 memory slots here. So this is one channel here, these 2 slots, and these 2 slots are another channel. So it's what they call dual channel memory. And if you had another set of 4 over here, we'd call that quad channel memory. So down here we've got a 24-pin ATX power, so this is what powers the rest of our motherboard. This little guy here powers the CPU and all of this stuff around it, basically. Then we've got, yeah, I know. We've got 2 SATA ports here and then another 2 there. Then down here we've got our front panel connectors. These 2 little pins up here on their own, that's the clear CMOS headers. So if someone was asking me about overclocking and stuff, so see how you got those 2 pins there, that's the clear CMOS. If you're overclocking, sometimes you'll key in bad settings and your system won't boot. You'll have to clear the CMOS to reset everything to defaults. So what you can do is you can get your reset, if your case has a reset switch, you can take the little 2-pin connector that goes over the reset button and you can put it over that clear CMOS header. And then your reset button resets the CMOS, not actually reset the computer. So you can do that. So, well, ironically, on most motherboards, if you trigger the clear CMOS header, the system will turn off, just like you've restarted it almost. but it turns off, like it stays off for like a couple of seconds and then it will turn back on. But like I said, that's really only for overclockers, or I mean, I usually just install the standard functions on the standard pins there. Clear CMOS is something that I use when like fixing computers that won't boot, or when someone brings a computer to me and I've got to play around with it. That's something that I'll just touch with my screwdriver. So not usually a problem, but that's just one way you can configure your system. So you've got a USB-C front panel connection, which we've got on this case, so we'll be utilizing that. We've got USB 3, we've got two USB 2s, trusted platform module, we've got another system fan header down here, we've got two more RGBs, got a little LED header there, and we've got our front panel audio there as well. And obviously this whole part of the motherboard here that's down with this front panel audio connector, all this stuff is the audio system here. And it's always positioned down here on ATX motherboards, and the idea is to try to keep the audio systems as clear from electromagnetic interference from other components on the board as possible. That's why they use these high quality gold capacitors here for the audio and stuff. They're very well insulated from other electromagnetic signals, because obviously an audio signal is an electrical signal, so subject to interference. And so around the back of the board here, we've got pretty decent I/O on this board. We've got our audio here, obviously down this part of the board, so it's all kept together. We've got 2.5 gigabit Ethernet on the motherboard. That's a good inclusion on this board. We've got 5 USB 3.2 ports. We've got a BIOS flash button there. We've got a display port and HDMI port there. Neither of these will actually be in use in this build. Do I have a couple of little blockers? I do. I'll put a couple of little plugs in there because they're not going to be in use with this CPU because it doesn't have onboard graphics. And we've got two USB 2s over there as well. And this just leaves this stuff in the center here to talk about. So we've got another 12 volt RGB header there, another fan header there. We've got two M.2 slots here. We've got our PCIe X16 slot, so this one's where we plug our graphics card into. These two here, they're X16 length, but they're only connected X4 the way along. You can look inside the socket there and you'll be able to see where the pins are connected up to. You'll also be able to see on the board where the connections are made, and at the end of it there's nothing connecting any of it. So, and this little one here is an X1 slot. These M.2 slots, they're actually X4 PCIe slots. It's just a different interface on the end. And then under this part here, this is the system chipset. So when we say it's a B550 board, that's what we're referring to. This is where the unique part of the motherboard is. And so this thing here you can kind of think of it as this is what everything communicates to before it communicates with the CPU. You can think all these USB ports and stuff like that down here, these SATA ports, all that stuff's going through the chipset when it's being used. So the chipset's a very important component and something you want to get right when you pick a motherboard. So B550 is AMD's new sort of mid-range chipset. Overclocking is enabled on B550, but you'll have some problems doing like really extreme overclocking because you don't have like a 16 pin or a 12 pin CPU power connector. You've just got an 8 there, and there's some other minor differences as well. But the difference between B550 and B450 is you get PCIe Gen 4 across the board. That used to just be on X570, which is their top tier boards. So
Nathan wants to know, do you only upgrade tower PC?
What's that? Do you only upgrade tower PC? No, we upgrade laptops, ordinary PCs, whatever you want. We don't work on Macs. We don't do any Macs. So, but yeah, anything PC or laptop related, absolutely. And so Mark's got 40 acres out there, so yeah, 300 mil over 40 acres, like an acre's 4.4, 4.4 thousand square meters. So if you do the math on that, that's a decent amount of water. So anyway, let's get started. We've gone through the motherboard in a bit of detail there, so we can get started now. So for our first drive here, we will install our 500 gigabyte SSD. So these are the new NVMe SSDs. They're these tiny little chips, really thin, really light. You can get them up to 8 terabytes capacity. They're different to these older style SSDs here. And so these things here are significantly faster because they communicate with everything through the same system that the graphics card and whatnot does. So when you communicate through that system, it's called the PCIe bus. You get significantly faster speeds than the SATA bus, which is what these guys talk through. And that's the limiting factor. So you plug SSDs, essentially the same kind of actual chips on there that store the information, and you give them a different interface and a different way to communicate with the CPU, and then you get massively increased performance. And this is a form factor that was originally sort of conceived of by like people who are running big servers and stuff. They wanted to have like an easily attachable high-speed storage device that they could just sort of plug into the board and just move around quite easily. It went through a couple of sort of beta stages, I guess you could say, but eventually they came up with this form factor, and it's been pretty much it's almost completely standard on consumer boards these days. There's not too many boards for sale in 2021 that don't have M.2 connectivity. And so with these heat spreaders here, they're not really heat sinks, they're just sort of heat spreaders. They've got this thermal pad on the bottom, so you've got to pull this plastic off them, and then that just slots in there, and we'll just tighten that down there. Oh. Like that. And there's our 500 gigabyte one installed in the main slot there. And so for our extra one here, we're going to install it obviously in the second slot. And so there's no cover on it, but we're not really going to need a cover on it because we don't have this graphics card and it's going to obscure it anyway. So it's not going to be a big deal. And so got this little offset here with a screw in it. So just take the screw out, and they just sort of slot in on an angle. Just like that. There we go. And that's all there is to it. There are two M.2 drives installed there. Yep.
What's the case you're using?
This is the Corsair 4000X. It's a great case. It comes with 3 Corsair SP120 RGB fans on the front, and it also has a Corsair RGB controller in the back there as well. So plenty of things to hook up to. So now we'll install our memory. So it's nice and easy. We're installing 4 memory modules, and we've got 4 slots, so we don't have to think about which slot we're putting them in or any of that kind of thing. We've just got 4 of the same sticks, and we're going to install them. And so a lot of people call it RAM, but these are technically called DIMMs, dual inline memory modules. That's why they're divided in half. And so all we've got to do with these guys is just line them up in the slot. There's a little notch in the middle. Just line that up. Then just nice equal pressure on either side of the module, and it will just clip in place. Now obviously these little plastic clips on the edges, you pull them out first, and that's what clips in place. There we go. Oh. And yeah, the Corsair 4000X is definitely a popular case. People generally like it. I like building in it. It's a nice case to build in. It's got plenty of cable management space. There we go. There's our memory installed. So now I've just got a CPU to install. So I think you commandeered the knife earlier, didn't you?
Yeah.
That's okay.
Oh, it's funny, yeah.
That's okay. I've already improvised. Sweet as. So with a lot of these CPUs, they're not coming with coolers. Certainly not the 5800X. So it's just a CPU in a tray in a box, or sometimes not even that. I sometimes buy them just in a tray. So. Alrighty, so what we got to do with our AMD CPUs, first give it a quick visual inspection just to be sure that none of those pins are bent. You don't want to bend them more by trying to put them in the socket, so a good once over is good best practice. And then we've got a little golden triangle on one of the corners of the chip. And there's also a little triangle in one of the corners of the socket. And all you got to do is just line up the little triangles. There we go. And it will just drop into the socket. Obviously, there's a little arm that's next to the CPU. You obviously pull that up first. And then, once it's dropped into the socket, you press down on it. And that is our CPU installed. So now we can turn our attention to the cooler. So have a look at this. That'll keep her cool. Actually, it'll be mounted. I'll mount it, I reckon, this way would be best. It skewers the RAM a little bit.
Yeah, it does.
All right, we'll think about that. We'll think about that. Oh, I get a screwdriver.
Oh, fancy.
So I'll always remember their brand. And we've got a fan here. And how do we install this bad boy.
They give you like any clips or something for it to hang on to the fins?
Possibly. I haven't got that far yet. Alright, let's get our mounting hardware. Oh yeah, we've got a few extra clips actually. Okay, so for AMD, what are we getting? Just AMD, alright. So it's obviously not using these clips. Alright. So this looks like it uses this looks like oh, I like this. It's got little grooves so you can adjust where it sits. So if it's too far to one side, you can change it. You can move it over either side. That's cool. But it adds a layer of complexity to me working out how I'm going to mount it. Let's use my new screwdriver.
Jesse says, hey Tim.
Hey Jesse, how you going? Alrighty, so let me have a quick look at these instructions. For that's Spanish. I don't know enough Spanish to read that. Okay, that's Intel, AMD. Yep.
Anthony says, hey Tim.
Hey Anthony, how you going? Okay, yep, sick, and then that just bolts on. Yeah, too easy. Alrighty. This is a relatively easy installation, this one. Where are those little rings meant to go?
Tim.
Yeah.
Mark says the screwdriver is all yours, mate.
Ah, yeah, so I didn't think you'd want this. It's just extra, yeah, it's just marketing.
says good thanks.
So that goes on. Let me just do this so I don't put it on upside down. I'm pretty good at doing that. Yeah, so they'll go on that way. Yeah. Or it'll be that way. It's saying AM4 is the outer one, so yeah, it'll be that way. So our first step is we mount these little brackets. So, oh yeah, directional. Just like that. Got the next two. Oh. No. There we go. And so we'll now get this fan in place. So these wire clips can be a bit of a pain in the ass.
I was just going to say, I hate those things. They suck.
This will be fun to slide through the middle. That didn't seem like it clipped onto anything. Or have I got to use like, it's given me 4, so I wonder if I have to like clip 2 on. No? I hate these clips. These clips are just crap. Nah, here we go. Gotcha. Bastard. go. Oh, they're directional. That's why they're giving us 4. That explains so much. There we go.
Worked it out?
Yeah. I think we can just... Oh, but... I have to remove the fans, this middle fan, to install the cooler. So I may have won the battle, but I've like well and truly lost the war. Oh, come on. Get out before I break it. Oh yeah. In fact, I'm actually going to need a special attachment to screw this down.
Isn't that why they gave you that other screwdriver?
It's a bendy screwdriver.
Oh.
I can hold it here and twist it so I can deal with these fucked up kind of situations. It's going to go on like that. And we'll get it screwed down. There's a couple of things we haven't done. Ooh. Dropping that on the floor is one. You always got to drop it on the floor. Very important. So there should be a tube.
I'm glad you're doing this and not me.
Ah, yeah. It can be like sort of fun and games, especially if you don't have much experience with these coolers and stuff. Like, it's alright when you've done a heap of them, even though like you'll come across ones that have just got a slightly different like mounting kit and stuff like that. Once you've done a few of them, it's sort of just like, oh yeah, what's different about this one? Oh yeah, that's how it goes together. Oh yep, sweet. So get some thermal compound down there. It should be plenty. Get that a nice spread down over the chip. Do it just a little bit more around here. Not going to make a big difference, but there we go, that's good coverage now. you've just got this bar that goes over, so you can adjust the location of the actual cooler if you want it a little bit over this way or a little bit over that way. That's all doable. Okay, so we've got these couple of bolts. Change over to the screw head. Oh, you bastard. Yeah, I've got a magnetic screw head. Like an actual magnet on a screw head. Apparently this one is not so magnetic. Now where did that other bolt go? I'm famous at this, eh? Bag.
I don't know, you just do.
You just do, eh? There's nothing you can do about it. Well, yeah, there is. I'll be able to find another bolt. Like, did it go under here? No? No, like, it's not.
Check the floor.
It's not the end of the world. I have checked the floor. That was like the first place I checked. Huh?
I said you're hopeless.
I know. But hey, that's why people watch. They love seeing me fuck up. What the fuck? Alright, we're going to try an alternative bolt here. And that's not looking too positive.
Is it silver?
No, it's black. It's black and it's got like a thick head on it. Come have a look. It looks like one of these, but thicker.
Mm-hmm.
I seriously don't know.
I don't know, babe. I don't know what you do with it.
Aha!
Found it?
Gotcha. Okay. Oh. Lost it again. This time it's easier to find. getting a bit tedious here, guys. Where'd that freaking screw go? Okay. Wish me luck.
Doing your head in?
Yep. No,
It's not turning.
no, I know. That bolt that I thought was the right one, I don't think it's the right one. So I tried an alternative then. Why do they have to give you like such a specific bolt? Okay, so let me find an alternative that will work. Jesus. And that's not the right thread either. Alright, this is becoming real painful, as you all can see. So it's a relatively thin screw thread, but it needs to be deep. That worked like a fucking dream. So I've got plenty of these. I need to remagnetize my drill bits. Okay. Look at that. I think we've mounted the cooler.
New Asians.
Got a good mount. That's feeling pretty tight. Alright, that's feeling pretty good. Sweet as. Get some momentum going back in this build. Excellent. Awesome. So there we have our prepped motherboard with our massive Dark Pro 4 cooler, which was a little bit of an ordeal to install, but it was mainly because I lost that screw. If it wasn't for that, it would have been relatively simple to install, so you can blame that one on me. But that's the sort of shit that happens when you build computers. So anyway, there is actually capacity to put another fan on here as well if we wanted to, but I don't think it's going to be necessary. So mark my words when we do our stress tests. Alright, so now we can turn our attention to the case and the rest of this stuff. Christine's getting the sticky off early.
I can't help myself. I see it. The corner was peeling and it was looking at me.
Alrighty. So let's get on with it. This is our case. So plenty of room at the back here for cable management. And a nice looking case inside. It's got this shroud for our cables and stuff, so always makes for a nice clean looking build. And so our motherboard will roughly go in here like that, and even with this tank cooler, the Corsair 4000X case will be able to mount it properly. So the problem is you get a big air cooler like this and you've got a small case, you might not have enough height clearance for a big sucker like this. So that's always something to keep in mind. So like I said, we've got some other fans and stuff to go on into this case. So we'll get these out of the way, and we've got some RGB strips as well. So we'll get all of that fiddly stuff in place, and then we'll worry about putting everything else in. So yeah, this is just the same style fan that's on the front, nearly exactly the same, as close as I could buy anyway. You probably wouldn't notice unless I told you they weren't the same, and then you'd be like looking for the difference. Christine's looking at it going, what's the difference?
I don't really see a difference.
So the it's mainly on the back. So there's no black, there's only 4 crosses there, and then it's like black fins on the back of the other ones. But I'm pretty sure I think they're just like one's a revision model. So it's still the same, what Corsair calls their SP120 fans. Hey Mick, how you going?
This one's going to look pretty sick when it's done.
Oh, I can't wait.
It's got some Corsair strips to go with it as well, so that'll look good.
Bit of Saturday night fun with a Corsair build. Gigabyte Corsair. 2 of everyone's favourite brands. And they always go well paired together. So if you're just joining us and you're watching in, we've got a Ryzen 5800X CPU under this tank cooler, and we've got 32 gigabytes of 3200 megahertz CL16 memory. We've got 2 SSDs with 1.5 terabytes worth of storage down there. We're going to install a 2 terabyte hard drive as well. So you'll have a total of 3.5 terabytes of storage. So we've got that back one in there. So now we've got these two 140s at the top. So these two 140s are going to be in the exhaust configuration. God damn these bolts. Screw that. I'm not screwing in 8 of them. I've got some slightly thinner ones that'll be easier to screw in. So look at that. And look, they're still tight at the end. What do you know? Oh, look at that. It just goes straight in. This will be a harder one, but still relatively easy. There we go. And you know what I'll do with these screws? Chuck them in the bin. Corsair will argue, oh, but we do this to prevent vibration, blah, 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 blah. It's like, how many well-secured fans vibrate with even cheap bolts? If they're screwed in, they're screwed in. They don't vibrate. It's making it harder to build, pushing up the cost of your materials. You know. If I was a shareholder, I wouldn't be very happy about that. Luckily, I don't play that game because it's a mugs game. And so we've got 3 inlet fans on the front, and we've got a couple, all these other fans are in the exhaust position. Alrighty, so now we're just left with our RGB strips. So our controller here is going to be full, I believe. So this is the expansion kit. get 4 Corsair RGB strips. And they'll be directional, so let's hope we get this right. I'm going to assume that the direction of the word is the direction of the flow. That makes sense to me, right? Okay, so what we're going to be able to do is we're going to be able to plug these in to one end of our RGB controller, and then we're going to be able to plug one of the RGBs for the fans into the other end of this daisy chain that we've created, and that'll enable us to run the strips and the 6 fans from the one controller without having to put another controller in there, because you might be thinking, hey, we've got 6 fans, the controller has room for 6 devices. Oh, but I may need a different controller anyway, because that's a 4-pin controller there, and I will need a 3-pin controller. Lucky that here's one. Oh no, that's also a 4. That's a 4.
There's a couple on the table in front of the monitor.
Yeah, but I'm sure I've got a Corsair that's 3, don't I? Possibly not. It's okay, we'll just power them like this. Yes, yes, yes. Oh, not that one. Find the right one. Aha. That's what we need. got so much RGB stuff, and it all looks the same, and there's no real ideal way to organise it all. Okay, this is just an extension here.
So much fun.
I'm just getting these. No, I'm just getting these strips like nicely in place, if you know what I mean.
Mm.
So they cover the four sides. Oh, is it?
Yeah.
Oh. Yeah, just leave it. Just leave it for now. It's there. It's there. We can continue with the build. Okay. Fixing that up and positioning that just right. That's like a final touches thing. I've got them in place. I've run the cable there. That's good enough for now. Because we're already an hour and 20 minutes into it because this cooler bogged me down for like 15 minutes. Alrighty, so now we got our power supply here, our gigabyte P850GM. It's a modular power supply, so it's just a box with plugs there, and so we've got to plug in the cables that we require. So we get this bag of cables. It's generally a little bit more work, but you get the advantage of not having to have heaps of cables that you don't need plugged into your power supply. So we'll be needing this one, our 24-pin ATX power. Everyone needs that. We won't be using Molex. We won't be using that SATA. How many SATAs do we have? We're only going to have 2 SATAs, so we'll be right with just the single cable. Plug that in. Yeah, V would be good. V me. Alright, so we need a single CPU power cable. Think of it as your mid-evening wake-up call. That was the fucking slogan, like, back in the day. Back in the day.
One of the I bought Nikki a V at work, and she'd never tried the green V before. And I was like, dude, that's the original. How have you not tried that one?
Do not need the second CPU power cable, but we will utilise actually we've got a 3060 here, don't we? Yep, so we will not be utilising the second SCART power cable. So all this cable we don't need, so we're going to stash these away somewhere in this case, probably in one of the hard drive trays. So we don't need power cable just yet. Well, we don't need that one at all because I've got one that I use. Okay, so here's the cables that we do need. So as you can see there, that's the advantage of modular. So we've just installed just those cables that we do need, and everything else we're going to stash away. So okay, so we'll get our power supply mounted in place, then we'll get our hard drive mounted in place, and then we'll turn our attention to the motherboard. And so obviously there's no radiator to mount here because we're not doing a liquid cooling setup. This is just the power of a good thermally conductive material and a couple of high powered fans. There we go. I'll turn this all around so everyone can see what I'm doing. So down here, we've got some cables and we've got this hard drive tray down here. So this has got all of our stuff for the case. And what we're going to do is we're going to use this bottom tray. Oh, can I have that other thing of cables? So I'm going to stick all these in the hard drive tray. We'll just slide them . Tuck them in there in the hard drive tray, out of the way. If we ever need to use them, we can. Oh. But the problem with doing that...
I should have done that last week.
I know, but I wanted to show people what you do with the excess cables.
I'm going to take that piece of foam out too while you're there.
Oh yeah, the foam. Corsair really looking out for us with a little bit of foam there. It's really necessary and shit. So we'll put our hard drive in the tray above. Slide all these cables in below. And so yeah, now we've got just these cables here and these cables here and our fans to connect. So we'll have some, there'll be some fan cables through here, yep. So we will have some stuff to deal with. But what we'll do now is we'll get this motherboard in the case. Okay, so we don't need to install an I/O shield or anything because we've got a pre-installed I/O shield on this board. So the best way to put your board in the case is to grab it by the cooler. It's generally a really nice, secure place to grab it from. Actually, there is one thing that I'm going to do first, because I anticipate a problem. Yes. Why is it always so hard to get these in? See, if you haven't seen this before, I hate these CPU connectors. Absolutely fucking hate them. Get through and give me enough fucking room to do this. Oh my god. Go in. Just go fucking in. Oh fuck, does this have to be an ordeal? Oh, get the fuck in there. Oh, why? Why does this have to be an ordeal every fucking time? Hang on. Is that the right fucking cable? I don't think it is.
Do you want me to hold it?
Can. Oh, just no. Can you turn the aircon on too? I'm like really getting fucking pissed off here. Plug that in there. 8-pin. Yeah, closest one.
No.
Wait, you've got the cable around one. Yeah.
I just can't see. It's really light. I can't see. I need light.
Okay. Now I have like a centimetre more length. Can I get it now? Yes! I gotcha, you fucker. Can you pull that cable? No, just pull that cable. Yeah. Alright. Yep, nothing's in the way of that. Fuck! That's all I got to say about that. Yeah.
This is the CPU cooler is one of the most harder to install this at the moment.
Oh, yeah. I mean, they're all pretty shit when it comes to putting in the CPU power connector. But anyway, that part's beyond us now. We can now catch up rapidly, hopefully. Well, we do have all the fans installed. We do have all the RGB strips installed. We've got a power supply installed. We've got the cooler installed. We've got the CPU installed. We've got the SSDs installed. We've got the hard drive mounted. Like we're coming along. An hour and 38 minutes. Like, I prefer to be like pretty much like done by now and moving on to the install. But anyway, it's been a bit of a frustrating kind of night, and you're going to get that from time to time. At least it didn't require taking things off the motherboard. That could have been worse. Okay, last one. Oh no, second last one. Third last one. Oh man. I'm not in a rush or anything. Done. Alrighty. So what we've got to do here is we've got to separate our fan cables from our RGB cables. Just stick them around there. All of our RGB can sort of, we can sort of tie them up down there if we want. This RGB header will go to the motherboard. This is our Corsair controller. Some SATA power, USB 3, our front panel audio, our front panel connectors. We'll prep that little thing. Where is it?
Where'd you chuck it?
Oh, that's not a problem. And then I'm looking for it like 5 minutes later. Okay, so we've got our power switch, our reset switch, and our power LEDs, positive on the left and negative on the right. That's our, yep, in there. So we've got that panel, got a little connector ready there, and all the rest of these. So USB 3 and C are both on the bottom. It's on the bottom, on the bottom, on the bottom. Great, everything is on the bottom. Sweet. So that makes our lives a little bit easier now. So we can send them all up. Send the front panel audio up a different one. These 4 can go all up the same one. Actually, we'll do the USB 2. The front panel audio. Okay, so we've got our USB Type C header. Plug that in. There we go. Oh. There we go, got those installed there. Our USB 2, which way is that? This way. Front panel audio. Go in like that. Alright, so what else have we got going down the bottom? We have an RGB header. There we go. So there's RGB strips all connected, and so now we've got 3 fans on the front, 2 fans on the top, and 1 fan on the back. And fans. Alright, so these 6 here are fans. And so that means all the rest of these 3 cables, these are all RGB, and Corsair make it really easy because they have these little tags that say to RGB hub. And so we can start to manage these cables a little bit. So we'll just tie them off here. Now we'll just stuff these cables back under there. There we go, all our RGB is installed. So now we've got some other cables. Okay, so we'll probably Is there some for me?
Yeah. Well, Mum should be back in the oven with the oven.
Oh yeah. Okay, so we've got some fan splitters. So we've got a splitter in there for 2. So now we'll put a splitter in there to split 3. Yeah. Yeah, it's not, like I was saying before, it's not the highest end air cooler that you can get, but it's up there. And don't mind me, we'll get there. It's been a bit slow. I'm hungry. Okay, so we've got those fans installed. Now we've just got these 3. Just tie them off around there and we'll stuff them away. Okay, so we're getting really close now. Got our motherboard power. Just make sure that we can run all these up here together. Yeah, I do. That's why I've done it like this. Yep, goes in right up there. That's pretty good. That's pretty good. We do have a serial ATA to go in here. Stashed around the back here. Just stay there for now. As for SATA, tie them back a bit as well. We don't need quite that much length for this. Two hours, yeah, okay.
It's 10 o'clock.
Yeah. Alright, so we'll plug a SATA into here. Stashed around there. Let's run that into there, just like that. And now we are left with one final cable. That's nothing. Yep. The graphics card. Was the only thing we didn't have in this build was Wi-Fi. So it's going to be slot 2 and 3. Yeah.
Tom says you need Wi-Fi for sure.
Yeah, I'm pretty sure I was talking with the customer about it, and I'm pretty sure we were like, he didn't need it. And he was just going to be plugging in with Ethernet anyway, so I'm pretty sure that was the case. Okay, so here it is, our MSI Gaming X. So there's also the Gaming X Trio, which is the model with the fans. So look at this. So this actually does take an extra power connector. So we may actually install another graphics card power maybe. Just what I wanted to do, more work.
This whole build is about more work.
I know.
Tom wants to know, is that okay for flight sim?
Yeah, oh yeah. I mean, Flight Sim's a demanding game, right? Like, it's demanding no matter what hardware you have, but you're not going to have any problems running this. Running Flight Sim on this, I should say. Yeah, so I'm pulling the power supply out to put this last cable in, because it's going to be like too far at the back. I unscrewed the power supply to put this last cable in, because it's going to be too hard to plug it in without. Hell, it's hard to plug in with the power supply out. Do you have a phone with some light? Maybe I can just over here, perhaps. Yes. Yes. Okay, now we're back on track. What's it say? I can't see.
It says, watch those sharp edges, people. Put a little light on the subject.
Yeah, yep. See, I could be lazy and just use the second plug on the same cable, but it doesn't look as good in the case once it's done. So okay. So now for the easy part. Ta-da! Look, I did it first go. Yeah.
Thing that says, I turn off just thinking apart the message in regards to an issue I'm having at the moment.
Yeah, no worries, man. What is it? Software, hardware, new computer, old computer?
Someone says excellent attention to detail.
Yeah, well, I mean, you gotta have some pride in what you do, eh? Well, like my motto is it's okay to make mistakes, but you have to recognize the mistakes and correct the mistakes. Because we're all going to make mistakes. So what we might do... No, that won't look good. We'll just do it like this. We'll just try and conceal. So, yes, we'll do that one down there. And so I'll probably come around down here, maybe. We can plug in our SATA up here eventually. Okay. And so one of the reasons why it's a good idea to mount your graphics card cables the way that I'm doing it now is it helps to stop the sag that can occur over time. So when you install your cables, if you can run them from the top down, it just kind of helps support the graphics card over time, and you won't have that issue where they start to sag after a while. Oh. So what? Do these cables not... Oh yeah. I thought they had one solid 8-pin on the line, but it was just really well put together. Let's stash that extra. Those extra 2 pins away somehow. Make it not visible. We'll fix these cables up obviously before we ship it, but that's roughly what it's going to look like. And so moving around the back here, so you can see there's some of these loose little cables, that's okay. But we've got all of our main cables sort of tied away nicely. We've got most of the bulky RGB and fan cables sort of tied away and sort of stuffed up into the corners. Got all of our excess cables stashed away there. We've got, yeah, the excess cables under there. We've got our SATA hard drive and, sorry, SATA power and SATA data cable installed in our hard drive. We just haven't plugged it into the motherboard yet because that's something that we do after we start the Windows installation process. So, after 2 hours and 15 minutes, we're done. We have one, oh, RGB cables come out here. Is that bent a pin? Ooh. Oh, there's a bent pin in here. Bloody RGB header. There we go. There we go. Perfect. So, thought that might be a nice place for the badge.
Yeah, covers up the upside down, be quiet.
Yeah, yeah, because we didn't want to. I didn't want to cover up the memory too much, so I installed it around the other way, and so the logo's upside down. So rather than changing it all around, let's do that. I reckon that's a good spot for it. This, I mean, with this configuration here, there's going to be plenty of airflow over that CPU and through this case. There's going to be, yeah, it's not going to have any problems with overheating or anything like that from what I can see there. So let's just make sure everything else around the back here is sorted. Then let's put our back panel on. Oh, what's in the way down there? So you should always be able to put your back panel on without any bulging. It shouldn't have to press down on it or anything like that. If you've done the cable management right, it'll just come on nicely like that. Some cases are a bit tighter and stuff like that. You've got to sort of spend a bit more time getting it right, but no, not in this case. This is a good case. So let's see if she works. What else have I screwed up? I screwed up a lot of shit tonight. I mean, I really think I screwed up. People are probably just watching going, oh fuck, that looks hard. That looks like it was painful. Okay, so we'll plug in our keyboard and mouse. So keyboard, mouse, power cable, Windows installation.
Switched on at the back.
It is switched on now. And we can see some first signs of life there. RGB RAMs come on, so that's a good sign. Show me everything lit up, and the RGB strips are not lit up. Oh, I spoke too soon. Indeed they are. On Aorus default orange. The rest of the fans aren't on default orange at the moment, and that's because hang on, I'm not getting the signal. What's wrong? Oh no. I'm looking for like what's wrong, and it's just come up on the screen. So, Christine's onto it. Alright, so since we're at this point, we're just going to start with our operating system install. We'll worry about our XMP profile on our memory later. Alrighty. That looks like some serious fucking hardware in there with that beefy air cooler. It's like this thing's ready for war. Okay, so because we've installed two M.2 SSDs, it's allocated drive 0 as the right drive, so happy days. And so now that we've done that, we can actually plug in this SATA cable. Done. And now that that SATA cable is plugged in, I can now put on, what's that? No. So see how much faster this installs compared to the laptop we did earlier today. Fuck yeah. Looking very nice. I'll be very happy with this rig. Very happy.
Thomas, do you update your drivers before dispatch?
Yeah, so unlike some places, I do a full Windows installation and a full system stress test. So that includes updating all the drivers, installing all basic software. So if you want things like Office 365 installed, Steam, Origin, Blizzard, Epic, things like that, I'll install that for you. It's all part of the service. So I don't really make much money on parts. I match a company called Umart on price. So if I can't find it cheaper than Umart, I'll buy it at Umart. And I don't make any money off it. I make my money off the service. So what I do is you get to see your PC get put together live. And I go and do the full installation of it. I set it all up so it's plug and play, ready for you to press power on, connect to the internet, start downloading your games. So you don't have to do all that other bullshit that you would normally do. And so I guess that's the advantage of being a smaller operator. I don't have like 50 PCs that I have to try to get built a week like somewhere like Aftershock would. So I don't have to rush them out the door and all that kind of thing. Even though I can still get a PC built and shipped off for someone within 4 days, which I think is pretty good. The fact that I am smaller means that I can spend a bit more time and put a bit more attention to detail on all my builds. And hopefully I don't stuff up and waste a lot of time while I'm building it, because I like to have everything sorted by this stage.
I've been going for 2.5 hours. So.
Mm-hmm. Just going to quickly enable our XMP so our memory is running at full speed. Yeah, see, I ship PCs out nationwide, so I've got to make sure, extra sure that everything's all good, because if I ship PCs out to people and things aren't right, then I'm only shooting myself in the foot, because I'm going to get support calls. And I really need to make sure that nothing major's going wrong with it. Yeah, if I'm shipping out to other parts of the country, because it's going to be pretty hard for me to fix a hardware problem or something like that from 6,000 kilometers away. So we always use the US keyboard layout because of the $sign. And we plug in internet later. So I just make a generic user account and I do not set a password. So if the computer ever asks you for an administrator password or something like that, you will just have to press enter with a blank password and that will get you into it. Because if you didn't set it, I certainly didn't. Alrighty. So we'll plug in some internet here into our 2.5 gigabit Ethernet port. It won't really take several minutes because it's a Ryzen 5800X. It's going to be done pretty quick. Here we go. Alrighty, so let's get some software going on. So Tom, you'll get to see roughly what my setup looks like. So this app here that we're downloading, this is so we can test the thermal performance of our CPU with some stressful workloads. Get all these updates, download and install. So now, pull that out. It's my SSD. So we'll test that front panel there. I'm not hearing a da-dunk. Alright, let's check that header. Oh, yeah, that'll do it. Aha. Yeah, sometimes you can just have like a bit of a bad mount on the cables there, especially these USB-C headers. They sometimes feel like they're clipped in all the way, but they're just not quite clipped in all the way. Alright, so we'll get some custom desktop icons here so we keep our desktop nice and organized. And now we'll get some stuff going on. So we'll get all this. So there's our graphics card drivers installed. Okay. So we'll get Corsair IQ. Really? Is it right at the top? Okay, so we'll get Epic, Firmark, GeForce Experience, Hardware Monitor, MSI Afterburner, Origin. Try that again. You want to do that? Why is that not working?
There's only 2 software I use, CCleaner and Malwarebytes.
Oh. Pointless these days. Malwarebytes is nearly adware malware itself these days. That's pretty sad, unfortunately, but fortunately that sort of stuff isn't as big a deal as it used to be. So you notice I'm not installing any antivirus software on any of my computers. So if you want antivirus, I've got an app that I recommend. It's a paid app, because the free ones aren't worth it, because you've already got Windows Defender. So Windows Defender is the free one, and yeah, you don't need any other free ones, basically. Oh, Origin's still waiting for... Oh, yeah. What else we got? Don't need that, don't need that. Office. Office. Yeah, the only drivers you need to download is GeForce Experience, the game ready drivers, because I'm not going to sign into a GeForce account just to download that. I just get the basic drivers that Windows gets from the NVIDIA website. We'll go okay, so we're going to need BIOS 13E, and we're going to need App Center. Start IQ, and we'll need crucial benchmarks. VLC, everyone needs VLC. think there's anything else there that we need. Sweet. Okay, show in folder. So we'll extract. It's our BIOS, and we'll extract App Center. Install App Center. So we're done. These are coming along. Just installed it, but IQ has an update available. Yes, yeah, I buy from Centacom as well. So yeah, Centacom, Scorptech, M-Wave, Umart, PLE, Computer Alliance, catch.com.au. There's a heap. I'm highly motivated by price. How's everything else going? App Center going on. And we're nearly there. Okay, Office is done. App Center, get rid of all this third-party software, we don't need any of that. How's Windows going? Alrighty. So IQ can come on. We'll disable OneDrive. We'll disable Steam. And there was one didn't install yet, which is Origin, which we'll install now. And then I think that's everything installed that we need to install. Yep. Okay. Save all that. So we'll set our date and time. So this PC is staying in Queensland.
Is it?
Yep. Yeah, he's moving to Queensland. He's moving up to Maryborough. That kind of area. So we've got, obviously we can see the SSD that we've got plugged in. But you may recall that we had another NVMe SSD and another hard drive. So what we're going to do is we're going to set up those two new drives. So here we go, it's detected some non-initialized disks. So we'll set them up the same as GPT. There we go. So let's see how, remember before when we were installing our Windows, it had this one here that we installed on, it allocated that as disk 0, and it installed Windows and the boot manager and recovery partition on that drive. If we had this connected already, it would have installed part of it on the hard drive. So that's why we don't connect them at first. And so now we can go new simple volume. Next we'll call this one drive E, because we'll make the other SSD drive D. Storage hard disk drive. And we'll do the second one, new simple volume, drive letter D. There we go. Let's give it a second. And it's formatted. There we go. And so there we've got our two drives available to be used. And how's everything else going? You ready for a restart? Nearly. Firmware update on our SSD there. We're just waiting for the main cumulative update to install there. So why don't we open up Hardware Monitor and have a look at these temps. It wants to respond. Oh no, that's right. We need to do a BIOS update because, yes, that's right. There is one other thing to do. Firmware update complete. Okay. Actually, let's wait for all this to, let's get all this sorted first, and then let's go and start fucking around with it. That's IQ. RGB Fusion will let us control the strips. And while we're doing it, we'll get some system information viewer going on. It's going to do the fan calibration for us. If it wants to do it without stalling, there it goes. So we can fix this up a bit. There we go. Okay, so this is coming to the end there now, which is good. And I think that covers most of it. Yep. Yep, yep, yep. Yep, all them disabled. Cool. Yep. RGB Fusion's open. Okay. Oh, RGB Fusion just decided to stall. There we go. Now all of our RGB matches.
The ram's orange.
Oh, is it? Pending restart. I love this point. So let's get our momentum cache going on. Hang on. Which is which? F4 is the one we want. Momentum cache on F4. Enable. Let's do it. Yeah, so the Corsair controller, when it's doing like updates, it goes on to a white LED mode. So all the fans will go white while we're doing these updates. And the strips turn off. Is the RAM off? I think the RAM's off. I can't really see it with that cooler in the way.
Yeah,
It's off, yep.
it's a big waste.
Yeah, so this is the big one after we do the first big lot of installs and stuff like that. I always wait. I don't like to restart all the time, like after every update and stuff like that. Just wastes too much time.
I'm glad you do all that pre-work.
Yeah. There's a lot of stuff that I do that other places don't, and like all the apps that you see me install, they're things that either come with the motherboard, come with the graphics card, come with any other component that we've installed. But also there's some diagnostic apps and testing apps and stuff that I leave installed on there. It's just the reason I do it is just if anyone has a problem and they call me up for a support call, I can get them to check something and tell me what something says. And so if I leave these apps installed, I don't have to then tell them how to install a certain app to check something for me. And we have to do an extra step now. Oh, we got updates already, do we? Yeah, there'll be some cumulative updates from Windows as well. I'm going to turn it off.
So I might turn the temperature up because it's like 118. It's really cold.
Okay. So now we're going to do the BIOS. So when this finishes, so we can update from file. Already downloaded it. And so it'll always be this one that has the BIOS version number at the end. That's the one that you want. I just want to wait for this to finish. Okay, finish. Alright. So that's our BIOS file here. We're going to go OK. Next. Next. Yes, we want to update the BIOS. We'll save current file. Save to C drive. And now we wait for the BIOS to be updated. So I'm gonna go for a very short smoke break and toilet break, and then I'll come back and we'll complete the rest of the setup, and we can start having a look and see how good that air cooler runs with that 5800X. Okay. And yeah, this BIOS update that we're doing on this particular board is very important if you've got a Ryzen 5000 series processor. So B550 is meant to be out of the box compatible with Ryzen 5000, but if you don't do this BIOS update that I'm doing now, your CPU will only run about 75% of what it can. And also the diagnostics won't work properly on it, the temp monitoring and all that. It seems to work okay when you're actually in the BIOS screen, but not in Windows. And none of the benchmark results are right. But once you do the BIOS update, it's fine. just hit 3 hours, so this is like that's the normal amount of time that I allocate for a build, like with this, with a cooler and RGB and all of that kind of thing. So I'm a little bit over time, got held up a bit with that cooler. I found the missing bolt. It had fallen between my legs and was wedged in the seat. Alright, so hopefully this will be the last pass. So once this bar gets to the end, it'll restart and we can finish off. Just waiting for this BIOS update, babe. Come on. What's annoying is it doesn't just show one bar. It goes and does this like fucking 10 times. Come on. I'm watching that clock and I'm acutely aware of how much extra time I spent on this build and where I spent it. I'm very self-critical. I'm my own biggest critic, for sure. Yay! Finally there. We need to go back into BIOS and we need to re-enable our XMP, because after we do a BIOS update the settings will go back to the default. And so now we have a computer that's ready to stress test. Okay. So let's first tune our graphics card fans. And get some statistics loaded for Riva Tuner. There's an update for Riva Tuner. I'll manually install that. Yep. Okay. That's all sorted for us. And so now when we open up this app, it won't install. Look at that. And so I don't know if Tom's still watching, but yeah, this is CPU ID. So this will tell you all about what you've got connected to your system. So if you've got an unknown CPU, this will tell you what it is. If you've got an unknown motherboard, this will tell you what it is. But what we can do here, see our CPU temperatures there. do, when I do my stress tests, I make sure that we have the fans turned up. Okay. So we've got some pretty warm temperatures going on here. Let's have a quick look at this. I don't reckon we've got a very good mount on this cooler. I think that's what it is. Let me put a bit of pressure on it. Yep. So I'm putting a bit of pressure on it with my hands and we're getting lower temperatures. So what that's telling me is when we're screwing in those bolts on it and they were on that, like that funny angle, we just haven't got those bolts tightened down enough. So I did find the actual bolt that's meant to go on there. So what we'll probably do, I probably won't do it tonight. This will probably be a tomorrow job at this stage. But the remedy will be to get this other bolt in there and get those bolts tightened down properly all the way. Painful design. Even if I'll probably actually pull out my my hex piece. And I'll actually remove this whole top bracket and then I'll have a straight angle onto those screws and I'll be able to tighten them down really tight like that, and then I'll be able to run the stress test, because as it is now, there's not really too much point running the actual stress test. But that doesn't mean it's all over. What we can do is we can run some benchmarks on it. We can see how it's traveling in terms of its performance. Okay, so won't worry about the Cinebench. We can run a CPU Z bench. Alright, so let's give it a serious test. So we're gonna get it to run. Just a second, that's done. Click submit and compare here. We'll look at that. And then we're gonna run an 8K gaming test on it. See how it holds up. This is all about CPU, so if you want to see where a Ryzen 5800X sits, so here is the single core performance. As you can see, it's notably higher than everything else, even Ryzen's old flagship 3950X, considerably higher single thread results. And if we turn over to multi-thread, we see that it continues its superiority in comparison to 8-core 16-thread CPUs like we're seeing here. If we go over to 20-thread CPUs rather, you can see that having those extra 2 cores and 4 threads does make a difference. But the 5800X definitely packs the punch for what it is. So definitely a good CPU. I'd be very happy owning this CPU. I'd have it on my personal rig, no worries. I can just manually go into that anyway. Doing 10 things at once here as usual. Okay, so get this installed quickly. Will need to do that reboot because I do actually need Reaver Tuner so you can see what the frame rates and shit is going to be. Okay. Let's run superposition at 8K. Let's do this. Yeah, so all of these live streams are available to watch after the fact, so both on YouTube and on Facebook. So this is 8K. This is well beyond what you use this card for. So we're hitting up to about 25 frames a second. Minimum's 18. So, you know, but you're not gonna, no one's gonna be playing at 8K on this card. Get yourself a 3080 or 3090 if you want to do that. Those cards will run this at like between 60 and 90 frames a second at 8K. Because that's where they really excel, the 3080 and 3090 is at those higher resolutions. There we go. So now let's have a look at something on the other end of the spectrum. Okay, so this is 1080p low settings, DirectX 11. Just a little bit faster than 8K. If you're wondering, that that figure there is the frames per second. Okay. Alrighty. So, average of 434 frames a second there. Anyway, I think we might leave it there for the night. I'm pretty hungry. I've got my dinner waiting for me now, so I'll catch you all tomorrow. Have a good one.